Hi everyone. Happy New Year to every one of you. This is our first show. You can't believe it. Our first show for the year. And it's such a beautiful show. I'm so happy to start this show for the year. So I'm just going to wait for every one of you to join us. If you're watching us, Happy New Year. Welcome to today's show. I'll give us a few minutes so more people are going to log in. But while you're watching, please, I would like you to please share on Facebook, share on Instagram, like I always say, share on WhatsApp, share to your group, whatever group you belong to, because this is a very, very important and timely show. So I will give us a few minutes while a lot more people join in. While you're joining in, please let us know in the comment section as well. Say hello to us so we can welcome you, especially while you're with us. Welcome everyone who is joining us. If you can hear us as well, please let us know that you can hear us loud and clear. And on the comment section, please let us know that you are here before we introduce our wonderful guests. Or guests. We have two of them today. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us on today's show. So we're just gonna start because we've got a lot to cover. We're gonna start. So if this is your first time, my name is Precious and this is Precious Derrick Talk Show. I'm very passionate about family. I'm very passionate about relationship. I'm very passionate about anything that would literally help us as human beings to be better, best of ourselves actually. So today's show, we're going to be talking about COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccine. And I'm going to just introduce our guests because we've got two wonderful people with us. I'm just going to read out. If you've been watching my show, you would know that these two wonderful people have been on our show before. So I'm not going to introduce them with all the long introduction. I'm just going to summarize their resume basically. So I'm going to start with Dr. Hector-Goma. He's a general practitioner with special interest in cardiovascular risk management and lifestyle intervention, patient safety, patients taking responsibility for their well-being, and tackling the broad determinant of their health. So this is his specialty, right? Why Dr. Ogboro-Okor, Dr. Loretta, to make it easy, is an obstetrician and a gynecologist. She's very passionate about women, where she involves in studies to ensure reduction in preventable harm for women and their babies, with overall goal of reducing poor maternal outcome. They both have over 40 years worth of experience as doctors. So you can imagine the people we have on our show today. They are embodiment of experience, and they are both currently, they are not retired, so they are still currently practicing in the UK. So they will be answering questions relating to the vaccine and COVID in general. So without further ado, I'm going to bring them on so we can just start straight away. But please, if you have any question about COVID-19 vaccine, or you have any question at all in relation to COVID-19, please put it on the comment section by starting the question with a capital Q, so I would know that that's a question, and I will just immediately ask the question. So whatever question that comes up along the line, we're just going to ask and put it straight to our guests. So without further ado, I'll bring them on. Just a minute. Hello. Let me unmute them. Actually, I need to unmute the both of them because I muted them. Hello, sir.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
Well, I'm very well. It's a
Breaking up.
delight to be here again. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you so much. Good evening, madam.
Good evening. It looks like we are breaking up. What's wrong with technology this evening?
I think
Good
we
evening to you.
sound okay. I think we actually sound
Okay,
okay. Yeah.
that's fine.
So guys, please, if you're watching and you feel like the audio is not okay or the volume is low or something, please let us know. We would increase it as much or even the highest, because we want everyone to hear what we are saying today. So I'm going to increase the volume as much as I can. So we are going to start, and I've got a lot of questions. Like I said, Dr. Loretta is a gynecologist, so she's going to be tackling the female aspect of things, because there are a lot of concerns about the female aspect of things. And obviously, we've got a GP in the house. I don't even need to say anything. So we're going to start, and I will start by asking the question. Dr. Hector-Goma is going to go first, and Dr. Loretta, if there's anything left that she thinks she needs to add, she will add to the answer. So I'll start with you, sir. What are the symptoms of COVID-19? That's my first question, sir.
All right, thank you very much. There are a few symptoms which are, I would say, they're diagnostic symptoms, and you find those symptoms in majority of the patients. One is fever. Two is persistent cough, which is usually a dry cough. So it might be wet, but usually it's a dry cough. And people would also complain about tiredness. And then loss of smell and loss of taste is also an early symptom. And then shortness of breath, that usually comes in about 5 to 8 days down the line. So these are the commonest symptoms that you find in COVID-19 infection. There are a few other symptoms which are not specific, but then they also may be there. So there are symptoms that you would say are neurological symptoms. Some people may be confused, may have a headache. You may also have what we call gastrointestinal symptoms. So symptoms which are non-specific, such as nausea and vomiting, even diarrhea, some people have. And then we also have rare but becoming more obvious symptoms called cutaneous or skin symptoms, what people are calling COVID toes. Some people are having what we traditionally call chilblains. Some people are having that. So those are some of the common symptoms that you find in COVID-19 infections.
Okay. Thank you so much. Dr. Loretta, do you have anything to add?
I think he summarized it all excellently well.
Okay.
Just to say that sometimes some people just complain of generalized lethargy, and to add that even after people have had the illness, there's what they call the post-COVID syndrome. And most times at that time, it's just this unexplained fatigue. So he's basically said it all.
Okay. That's very good. I like the way the answer is just straight to the point. So we'll move on to the next one. So, Dr. Loretta, I'm going to put this question to you. Maybe Dr. Hector-Goma is going to add after you finish talking. What is long COVID, and how can you manage the effects of long COVID-19?
Long COVID-19. That's interesting. If I'm being honest, I really don't know what that is in reference to. Maybe Dr. Hector-Goma may have to help us here. But I do know that what I just talked about, the post-COVID syndrome, is when people have had the actual illness and they have been retested and they found to be having a negative test. The symptoms of COVID still persist. They carry on for like 3 months. They are completely lethargic. They can't just like be themselves like they used to feel themselves before. So whether that is what people mean by long COVID-19, I would let Dr. Goma confirm. But what we call that is post-COVID syndrome.
Okay. So Dr. Hector, please.
Yeah, okay, you're right, Loretta. When long COVID is when somebody has had a diagnosis of COVID and the symptoms 12 weeks, about 3 months down the line, they are still not back to themselves. That's what is now called long COVID. And as you know, this is a very new disease. So a lot of the knowledge is just being assembled, as it were. So people that had, some of one's patients who had COVID as early as March last year are still, some of them are still having symptoms of long COVID. And there are about 10 or so symptoms that you'd find. People have breathlessness, they just do, even just walking up, even walking towards the steps, they become breathless. So breathlessness is a big problem, as you mentioned, Loretta. Fatigue, some people just can't do anything. Fatigue, you can imagine having COVID and then 6-9 months down the line, you're so tired, even to wear your clothes is a problem. So fatigue is there. People still have cough. And then some people, the oxygen levels are fine if they are seated. But if you put a pulse oximeter, the oxygen level is fine. But if they just maybe get up and walk up to the study or go somewhere or go up the stairs, it crashes. So oxygen level drops when they do any activity. And then some people still don't have their sense of taste or smell, 6-9 months down the line. People are struggling with their voice because even talking is a lot of effort for them. Swallowing, they're struggling with swallowing. And then they have, with the fatigue, they have musculoskeletal pain, back pain, shoulder pain. And of course, you can imagine if you're a worker and you can't go back to work, you can't function in your home. So long COVID brings anxiety. When will this end? And when they get in touch with us, we don't really have much to offer. There is no magic pill to bring strength back, so their mood, they get frustrated, they struggle to cope with their mood and frustration. And some people, their memory, they just don't remember things, they struggle to concentrate. So these are some of the very debilitating symptoms of long COVID, similar to what people have with chronic fatigue and myoencephalitis. And luckily in the United Kingdom, there is an excellent website which I'm sure people can access anywhere they are in the world. It's called yourcovidrecovery.nhs.uk. yourcovidrecovery.nhs.uk. And it's an excellent website. It takes each symptom and tells the patient what you can do to help yourself, because largely it is self-help and time before this. And that's why people really need to take COVID seriously. You can imagine 9 months down the line, you can't even leave your house, you can't walk down the street, there is no strength at all. If you do blood tests, they all come back normal. So there's really nothing much we can do for the person, but you are just miserable because you can't get on with your life many months after the infection has cleared. So really, I just want to appeal to people, take COVID seriously.
Oh, wow. So that means
just to add, sorry, Precious. Now I'm sure, Dr. Goma, that we are talking about the same thing in terms of post-COVID syndrome, being sort of overlapping with the term long COVID. Practically with it. So today, the person feels a lot better and well. And then all of a sudden, they just seem to have another drop. And like Dr. Goma has said, we found that mental health is also very implicated in this matter. The ones I've come across, patients I've come across, we've tried to get them as much support as can be mustered, because they complain that the GPs are not taking them seriously. And yet, like Dr. Goma has said, the GPs have acknowledged that this is something that is real. It's not like it's in their brain. So we found that a lot of psychological support and mental health counseling, and then being with people who have had COVID and talking about it via that website, access websites and support websites have helped.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much. I think everyone who is watching, I don't think there's any doubts on actually trying to convince people that COVID is real. I think everyone knows now that COVID is real, with the impact if you are still doubting that COVID is real, I think it's just you being in denial of the whole thing. But you know deep down inside of you that COVID is real. So moving on, please guys, if you're watching and you've got any question, please on the comment section put it down. Share as well to your friends, share as well to families, share if you know anyone who has concerns about the vaccine as well. Please, you would want to invite the person, because these are the best, as in the best of the best, that you can ask questions. They are our people in terms of a black community. They are also practicing, so they've seen it firsthand what is going on. So you may want to invite people as well. So moving on to the next question, which now we're going to be talking about the vaccine. I would like to put it to both of you, but maybe Dr. Loretta is going to start first. Why are black and ethnic minority disproportionately affected by COVID-19? Does it have a link with our DNA or lifestyle or anything that is beyond our control? Because obviously, just talking about the question, the last news we had, I'm talking about the first lockdown we had in the UK, it was all over the news that black people are dying more, or the BAME community, more of them are dying, more of them are affected by COVID-19. What is it? What is really the issue? Why did we get so affected by COVID-19? If you want to answer that question, please, Dr. Loretta.
Thank you, Precious. There have been many hypotheses, and now things are getting better. Like Dr. Goma said, COVID is novel, so it's new. We are learning new things every day, and research is coming out. Now, the irony is that the black and ethnic minority population in other countries, i.e. in the UK, in America, it's been found that they are worse hit. Whereas if you actually go to the continents of Africa itself and the countries, it looks like, well, this doesn't appear to be that severe. So people have been wondering, what is causing this disparity? But we found out in the UK recently that it's not just one factor. It's a multiplicity of factors. So things have been done to risk assess people. And then we found that there are a group of people in the high risk group. So COVID-19, we know, is a virus that is going to affect people. And the worst hit people are those with underlying medical conditions. These underlying medical conditions will range from hypertension through to diabetes, through to just being obese, being above a BMI of 30, on through to having other illnesses in the background, things like cancers, things like autoimmune conditions. So it's a whole range of background illnesses. Now, with respect to the black and ethnic minority groups, many of us, our vasculature by itself, when I say vasculature, that means our blood vessels, the pipes that carry blood in our body, it's in such a way that we are prone to certain ailments. Hypertension is one of it. Now, we also know that on the flip side, hypertension is a disease of lifestyle. So if we are obese, if we don't do exercises, depending on our dietary intake, we are also prone to hypertension. And obviously, as people get on in age, all these things get worse. Now, we are in that subset group where, because of different reasons, such as not actually, one, disclosing these background illnesses or condition. Two, some of us don't even know that we have it because of our poor health-seeking behavior. Three, at work, some of us have come in earlier times with a different age on our documents. So our official age is 30, but our biological age may be 45. And that even makes us a lot more prone to illnesses. But the workplace doesn't have these figures. And then at work, we don't disclose most of these things. And then at work, the black and ethnic minority people are also the people who will least resist. So what that means is, if there was no PPE especially at the early parts of this COVID thingy, they were the ones who would say, oh, let me manage and just do it. But you find that the people who are inherently in these communities will say, no, if your PPE is not complete, I will not do this work. Then there is the issue of exposure. We are the ones likely to do all the overwork and the overtime because we are not making money just for ourselves, but we are making money and sending them back home. Be us Indians, be us Black people from the continent, be us whatever. So if you look at all these multiplicity of factors, you will find that we had greater exposure and we had more underlying illnesses. And that has made us prone to recovering poorly from COVID infections. Also, there has been the attributes to lack of vitamin D, which is also being studied now. You find that when you are in a place like Nigeria, anywhere in the continent, you have optimal sunshine, your body is used to that. And then you come to a place that is very often cold and you have more nights than day. We know that in the winter, there is a lot more night than sunshine. So you are already vitamin D deficient. That also makes us a lot more prone. So when you add up all these figures, you look at the social cultural aspect, you look at the religious aspect. There are those who will say, if they had anything wrong with them, it would be, oh, blood of Jesus, I'm not going to go into the hospital. Yes, there's the fear of catching COVID when there is no COVID, but you still also have to seek help. But then you find that we are the least group likely to go forth and say, I think there is a problem. So it's not just one factor. A lot of things came together and a lot of it is still being studied to find out exactly what it is. But by and large, let's all know that there is COVID. Let us take this opportunity to treat our underlying medical conditions properly. Disclose it. Hypertension is manageable. Dr. Goma will tell us they manage a lot of patients in the community for ages. They just need to be compliant with their medications and vigilant. Prevention is far cheaper, wiser, and better than cure. So those are some of the reasons that has made the Black and ethnic minority group a lot more hits by the COVID pandemic.
Wow. Thank you so much. I'm just going to read a few comments here. Sorry guys, I didn't say hello to you. Ebonyi Go TV, good evening. Good evening. Thank you so much. Happiness Coaching, thanks for joining us. Audrey Christie, thank you for joining us. And Audrey asked a question, which is an area we're going to be covering. Trust me, we have a gynecologist. That's why I personally invited her. So if you're watching, I'm pregnant as well. So that question is going to be covered because it's a very important aspect. So we're going to ask that question. Don't worry about it. Yeah, thank you so much, Johnny, for joining us as well. So Dr. Hector-Goma, with respect to what Dr. Loretta has just said, so does it mean that it has nothing to do with our DNA, genetics, and all of that? It's just more about our lifestyle and every other thing, but not something that is in our gene that makes us more vulnerable to COVID-19?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Loretta. The evidence is not there. I mean, it's like, again, it's a new condition. Measles vaccine came into existence in the 60s, so there's 50 years of knowledge. So this is a new condition, but there is nothing genetic, and it's largely like Loretta said, largely the social determinants of health in terms of largely our people are poorer. Majority of our people, both the Africans, African Caribbeans, and the people of South Asian descent are poorer. And then many of them also live in, the only thing to add to what she's very well put together is the fact that some people live in crowded households and also live in multi-generational households where you have grandparents, parents, children. So there's inability to self-isolate or to do social distancing in such overcrowded houses. And I mean, like as she said, our population in the country is about 21%. The NHS, so the workforce, about 21% non-white, but the death from the first wave was 68% non-white. So it's all the factors that she's detailed are all responsible, but it's not genetic. It's more of lifestyle and social factors.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying that. So if you're watching this and you know of somebody who said, you know what, the fact that I'm black, I'm so vulnerable because it's genetically or is in my DNA, there's something about my DNA that makes me so vulnerable. It's been clarified by the professionals that it's nothing to do with our DNA per se, but it's more of the lifestyle, how we live our life, and every other thing that they've just mentioned. And Dr. Loretta actually gave an exhaustive list why the black and the ethnic minority people are disproportionately affected by COVID-19. So moving on to the vaccine. Thankfully, because when COVID came, everyone was just praying for the vaccine to come. I remember even in church, everyone was praying, God, please, we want this vaccine, we want a breakthrough, because we know that the one way that COVID can be put under control is through having the vaccine. And thankfully, we have so many vaccines. But talking about the vaccine, can you tell us what the vaccine is made up of? Is there anything that has to do with DNA as well, RNA? You know, those things are very, very medical. So for people like us that don't know anything, can you just explain to us in a layman form what the vaccine is made of? Because I know growing up that vaccine is when the particular virus is killed, then introduced into the body, whereby the body sees it as a foreign body and tries to produce antibody that would be able to fight that particular virus. But I know that the virus has already been killed. So in this case of COVID-19, what is it about? What is it made up of? If you don't mind, Dr. Hector-Goma, can you please answer that question for us?
Okay, thanks. I mean, like you said, there are quite a few vaccines. You have the Pfizer vaccine, you have the AstraZeneca vaccine, you have the Moderna vaccine, and you've also recently had in America approval for the Johnson & Johnson. And there's the Corona vaccine, there's the Sinopharm from China, and then there's the Sputnik from Russia, and a few other vaccines are all queuing up to get on the road. But the ones we are currently using in the UK are the Pfizer and the AstraZeneca. Now, the Pfizer vaccine is a COVID-19 mRNA vaccine, and it's the first of its kind. Although the mRNA vaccine has been tested in humans 7 years ago, this is the first one that's actually gone beyond testing and is being used. And just to explain briefly, you're quite right. The original vaccines are either live or attenuated vaccines, which actually introduce a tiny bit of infection into the human body. But technology has moved on so much so that what they've done with the Pfizer as well as the Moderna vaccine is that we all know about the structure of the corona virus, that it has spikes, like that's what the corona comes from, like a crown. So it has those spikes, and it is the protein in those spikes which gets, like, the spikes go into the cell, and then when it gets into the cell, the protein, the mRNA is a messenger RNA. It carries a message from the virus, and then it takes over. That message makes the cell to begin to produce the virus. Just today, I had an idea about an analogy. I said, imagine that you have an you have an office, and you have maybe an office assistant whose work is to take a sheet of paper to the photocopying machine and make 1,000 copies of the document on that sheet of paper. So he is like the messenger for the office, who has a specific responsibility to go and photocopy this sheet of paper, make 1,000 copies. But what we now have is that instead of the office messenger going to do his or her work to print that 1,000 copies, imagine if an imposter comes into the office with a different sheet of paper and goes to the same photocopier and now makes the photocopier to print a different document. So this imposter is the messenger RNA. The imposter is coming from the coronavirus. It goes to the photocopier, which is the body's normal cell, which normally gets instruction to print some work. But the mRNA comes and gives a different document, making it to now print the virus, maybe 1,000 copies, which now goes on to cause problems. So what scientists have done is that instead of taking the whole virus, making it milder and introducing the whole virus, they've taken the spike protein and then taking the part of the spike protein that does the messaging and taking that chip from the spike protein and then use that to form the vaccine. So you're not even introducing the virus, you're just taking a piece of the virus, which is what triggers the reaction, taking that piece and then form the vaccine with it. So when that is now coated with a lipid layer and then something to stabilize it, there are 4 things altogether. You have the antigen, which is the spike protein. You have something to help boost the immune response, the preservatives to make the vaccine stable, and then the preservatives to make it effective, and then stabilizers so that when you transfer it from manufacturer to wherever you give the vaccine is stable. So that all these 4 things make up the vaccine. But the key thing is the antigen, which is not the whole virus, not the whole spike protein, but a part of it which carries the code, so that when it gets injected, it goes into the bloodstream and then enters the cell, and then the cell is now deceived into making not the virus, but to make the protein. And that's a clever thing which technology has done. And again, let me just digress one more time. People say it's happened very quickly. Remember in those days when you had to make a phone call, you had to go to Nitel and go and queue, or you go to your neighbor's house at 9 p.m. to speak to your brother who is in London. Today, everybody has a smartphone. You can speak to the person, or you have to post a letter and wait for 6 weeks for a reply. Today, you go on Snapchat and you're talking to people all over the world. So if communication has so advanced, why do you still want us to wait for 8-10 years to get a new vaccine when technology can now make it faster? So there are quite a few reasons, but just to say that what has happened with mRNA vaccine is that they've taken a tiny piece from the whole virus, and then just the key thing is that bit that triggers the production of the virus now triggers the production of just the spike protein, which the body now recognizes as foreign to it, and then develops the immunity against it, so that when tomorrow the coronavirus itself comes near you, it comes in thousands and millions and then attacks the coronavirus. And that's just how I would like to explain the basis of the formation of the Pfizer vaccine.
Dr. Loretta, maybe you would explain it to maybe most of us did not understand all this RNA spike and all of that Dr. Hector Goma has mentioned. Maybe you would use pounded yam, gari and soup, and
but I use photocopier now. I said photocopier.
I think he has explained it very well, and he has made it very, very simple. But the point I really want to buttress, and what many people have asked, and he sort of touched on it, they've said, oh, the speed. And I think Dr. Goma himself had given that answer. People had been working for about 7 years. We must remember that this COVID-19 is in a big family of coronaviruses. So these viruses have been with us, the common cold, the flu, so they've been there, and people have been working. You know, when you're in another area of life, maybe if you're an accountant, you don't know what's happening in the labs. You know, you don't know what's happening in a mechanic workshop. So we didn't know, but people have been working, like he said, for about 7 years on how to get this messenger to do the photocopying properly, so that nobody comes to give the messenger a wrong message to photocopy. Now, he's also pointed out that we are in the artificial intelligence age. We are in the technology age. So people who have panicked that this thing came out overnight, it looks too quick to be true, I think we have simply explained it today. And I want to thank Dr. Goma. I don't need to even bring soup or a fast running pomo into this. I think he's just said it the way it should be, and it's beautiful. Okay, just imagine you have a house help who you send to fetch water for you from a particular tap. And as the house help is coming with that water, someone else exchanges the bucket of water with poison. Just think about it that way. So your task now is to make sure that that bad guy or bad girl does not succeed in exchanging that bucket of water. Or even if they succeed, you are going to have your own army ready to destroy that poison, because you've been sensitized before. You're on the ready that, they did this thing last time. They swapped my bucket of water. Because that's what you are telling the body. Recognize this action and mobilize to sort of destroy it. So I don't really see anything more simplistic than what we've explained right now.
Okay.
But let people not panic. It is real. It's good. People have been working behind the scenes for years, and new technology has helped. People no more have to wait 10,000 years to move one sample in the lab from point A to point B, or to store them. So let's go with the times.
Yeah. Thank you so much. There's another question here about mutation. I think we're going to talk about that as well, but not trying to be as if I'm a bit like dragging the question in terms of how fast it went. I was just thinking, or based on what people have asked as well, the rate at which, I know it came fast, which, to be honest, glory be to God, because we all prayed and God answered our prayer. In the Christian aspects, God answered our prayer really quick. But how about the rate at which it will have this vaccine coming from here, we'll have the vaccine coming from here, we'll have the vaccine. It's like we're having a lot of the vaccine coming out at the same time. And people are asking, is it all about the money? Why are we having so many different types of vaccine? Is it that we are having a different type, as in it's a different type of the vaccine that is going to fight a different mutation when it comes? Or is just that one type of vaccine, but every company or every let me say company is just producing? Is there not like something that has to do with, okay, it's all about the money, or there's politics in it, or this country wants to take an upper hand that they produce the vaccine? Do you not think there's something that has to do with that as well?
Well, is this one?
Oh, sorry, Dr. Loretta, please. Can you go on, Dr. Loretta?
No, is it for me or is it for Dr. Goma?
Both of you will probably answer. Well, it might be different answers you've got. So, if you go first,
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So my opinion on this, as someone who has studied clinical trials and also been involved in being a participant in clinical trials myself, and being involved in pharmaceutical companies, to say that I will be economical with the truth to say that sometimes money and gains does not become implicated in the world of medicines and medicine production. However, the takeaway message is that safety is still paramount. So what do I mean? Anybody producing anything at all, there are standards to be met. Clinical trials are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. So they're like 3 hurdles, a lot of hurdles before it is ready to be used on human beings and then tested again in human beings. So we know that COVID-19 has different strains, but to be honest, the production, like you said, of the different and by the different pharmaceutical companies is a simple thing. I think sometimes we're all just looking for conspiracy theories. So imagine that we are how many people in this world? I don't know if Dr. Goma can help me with a figure, but imagine we are millions of people on the planet. 7 billion people on the planet. And there are different countries on the planet. And these different countries before now, they all had their pharmaceutical companies. and then we have a pandemic. Do we truly expect that it is fair or right for one source to be the production of something as important as a vaccine? No. Every country is going to get into the race for that vaccine. The reason is because, yes, there can be peculiar strains to a place, but more importantly, the governments have people to take care of. We must understand that side as well. And it is easier for you to produce something locally sourced and made in your place than for you to start importing. So that's one key reason why people will all try and go into production. The other reason is that if I am producing something, I have the patency of that thing. Now, let me break that into small, simple, everyday word. It means that I own it. So I started this thing. So I own it. I gave it my name. And in the creation world, in the world of pharmaceutics, there's a period that must elapse first before someone else can begin to produce that thing in a generic fashion. When I say generic, that means like you have say Coca-Cola. They've kept their formula secret for many years. And Pepsi came along and is doing their own as well. But Coca-Cola never quite gave Pepsi their formula. Why have we not complained that there are different countries, different drinks, but we're all drinking it? So at the same time, there are times you make something and it's only fair that you are given 5 years to say you are the sole owner of that creation. It's your creative. After 5 years, other people can make it in different trade names. So you can see Ampiclox is actually the family of penicillin, but then you come and you find another company saying Moxiclox. Another one will say Pharmaclox, because now that time has passed and I'm now making generic ones. So to answer your question of the vaccines, one, there are these companies across the world with governments across the world, and they have people to take care of. And people have been working, don't forget, for over 7 years in the labs, different labs. So now this has come, they need to save lives. So safety is at the center of their work. By that, I mean that none of these vaccines is going to kill anybody, but they could have side effects. We'll come to that. They could have side effects. Some people may react, mind the words I'm using, they may react to them and in life-threatening ways. But it doesn't mean that the vaccine was created just because of money and gains to destroy people. No, the vaccine is actually created to help people tackle the pandemic.
Wow.
And the race for it is by all the different companies. And it's okay because we are 7 billion on the planet.
Wow, thank you so much. Dr. Hector, do you have anything to add in terms of this politics aspect we're talking about?
Yeah, I guess the issue of the variants, I was reminded of something in Things Fall Apart. For those who read Chinua Achebe's book, I think there is a Kenneth the bird said, since men had learned to shoot without missing, it had learned to fly without perching. And that's the same thing about why we have flu vaccine every year, is because it keeps mutating, it keeps changing. And that's why we don't have some vaccines are once, BCG vaccine is once in a lifetime, but then flu vaccine is every year because it mutates, it changes. So it shouldn't be a big deal that the coronavirus is mutating. I mean, the experts are continually doing what they call genomic sequencing of the variants, which is, again, that tells us that when genomics came into medicine, it took about 13 years to be able to break down the DNA sequence of the human body. It took 13 years with researchers working across the globe. It took 13 years. But now that same process and it took about, I don't know whether it was $2 billion or something to do that project. But now you can do that same work in 1 hour. What took 13 years and thousands of researchers across the globe, you can do it in 1 hour for whether $1,000 or something. So researchers are continually looking at the new the variants. I mean, later mentioned phase 1 to 3 of trials. Phase 4 trial is when the vaccine has been given. They now continue to do research to see whether people who have had the vaccine tomorrow come down with coronavirus infection. Their reporting system. So maybe in the next 6 months, in the next 1 year, they can now know whether what percentage of people who have had a full vaccine have come down with infection. If it's a very small percentage, that gives confidence that the vaccine has worked. It might be that those who have had the vaccine today, tomorrow the variant affects them and then they come down with an infection. That makes them now realize that we need to now have another version what happens with flu is that every year they look at what variant is most likely to be the predominant one at the end of this year, and then they now do vaccine for that variant. A few years ago, the mathematics didn't work. So the point is, it's still early days. It might be that the vaccines we're having now would work against the new variants if you have exposed to them. If they don't work, by that time, when they come down to this time next year, there may be a newer version of the vaccine, but I think we should, they say, sufficient of the day is the evil thereof. Let's worry about what we have now and ensure we take it. And then if tomorrow people come down with infection, they can now know what new versions of the vaccines to use based on the knowledge of the variants.
Right. Thank you so much. We're going to run because Dr. Loretta will be leaving very soon. So we're going to be running. And there are some specific questions that people really want her to answer. So we're going to move on to the next question. I know we've all accepted that, yes, people have been working behind the scene even before COVID came. So COVID coming is just like, okay, we have one more thing to add to our task to do. So thankfully, prayerfully, God has answered our prayers by making this vaccine come out. And many other pharmaceutical companies are actually trying to get more vaccine. Our prayer is that if there's any mutation, they are able to come up with a vaccine that would be able to fight that mutation. That's our prayer. But I want to ask, was this vaccine actually tested on black people during the trial phase? Or obviously, depending on where it's done, if it's done in the UK, they use the people here to do it, or if it was done in a different country where they have very few black people, they use their people to do the trial. So to just give us that peace of mind, was this trial also done using the black people? Dr. Loretta?
Yes, it was. This is why it's good to have this kind of discussions. When you are doing trials, there's what you call the recruitment phase. So you are going to have to recruit people, and you want a very significant catchment. So when I say significant catchment, you want to cut across all groups. So when you've got all these groups represented, so in terms of sex, male and female, or age, religion, all of those things are considered, ethnicity, all of that. It is after you get all of these covered that then you do randomization. So that means you now begin to allocate people to different groups of the study arm. Now, for this COVID-19, because I went to read the Oxford team when they were preparing or when they were doing the vaccine production, testing, and all of that. And it may interest people to know, they may not have known this, that they even went to refugee camps to recruit people and to, first of all, get informed consent. The reason was because they wanted to find out how it will work in people from certain ethnic backgrounds. So they made sure they went to those kind of places. And for those who agreed, obviously not everybody will agree, for those who agreed, they were recruited into the study. It may also interest people to know that specific occupations were considered, that nobody is left out. So they will go to the police, write to them. Those of you who want to join the study, they will go to firefighters. They will come to people like you, Precious. They will go to teachers. And the reason is simple. You want to study all these groups so that you are not missing out. The clinical trials procedure or process, like Dr. Goma said, is a very rigorous one. Very, very rigorous. I know that what has sensitized people is when they got this thing from social media initially, which said that the French researchers were planning to go to some location in Africa to test their vaccines. I don't know if you heard about this. And there was a big social media uproar. And then they said, oh, they discountenanced that idea. So people were like, oh, if they couldn't go to Africa again, so it means this vaccine wasn't tested on Africans. But that's not true. Because even I, who am here, sat here speaking with you, I got a letter to come and participate in the study for that vaccine. So please, please, if nobody takes something away from here today, if they want to take only one thing away, it is to know that clinical trials are carefully designed to capture all people. And in the case of this vaccine, all groups were made allowances for. Even some groups that people may not even think people went to, they went to.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm just going to read a few comments before Dr. Hector-Goma says something. Anu said, I think it's just fair to admit that all these pharmaceutical companies have been working hard, hence why all the results are coming out about the same time. Yes, to be fair, who doesn't want to be the one to bring the solution to the global crisis? And she also said, I don't think it's about money, but they all have been working hard to solve the global problem, which they should be praised for. It's my joy if my company brings a solution to a world pandemic. And Happiness said, also countries want to have their own solutions, not to be at the mercy of supply from other countries, which makes a lot of sense as well. And someone also said, sorry about the pronunciation. She said, true, I got a letter for the trial too. Thank you so much. Please keep the comments coming. Keep your questions coming as well, and we're going to read them as much as possible. Dr. Hector-Goma, do you have anything to say?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm defending the pharmaceutical companies. I'm not a shareholder. I'm not a fan of drugs or injections, but it's about calling a spade a spade. Black people in the research, Pfizer had 150 clinical trial sites for the vaccine in US, Germany, Turkey, South Africa, Brazil, and Argentina. For the phase 3 trial in US, they had over 40,000 patients or volunteers, out of which 70% were whites, 10% were blacks, 13% were Hispanics. Now, when you compare that with the population of America, 76.9% is white, 13.3% is black, and then 17.8% is Hispanic. So it's not too far from the distribution of the population. So definitely there was involvement of the black community in the research. And again, like you said, just to add to the fact that the issue of technology was there. The previous work on Zika, Ebola, SARS, MERS also helped to speed up the process. And then it's not every time you have research for a vaccine during a pandemic. The last pandemic was the Spanish flu one. So it's just God-given that we are having the research for COVID vaccine during COVID pandemic. So you didn't have to work hard to find volunteers or find people who may be affected. And then people say, why is there no vaccine for HIV or Ebola? When you look at, what do you call it? When you look at COVID, it's in the air. With Ebola, you have to go to parts of the world. If you don't go there, you don't get affected. With HIV, it has to do with your lifestyle. If you don't do those things, you won't be affected. With coronavirus, it can breathe the air and it can come to you, and it's all over the world. So, I mean, for the big pharmaceutical giants, they are not Father Christmas. They're not going to go and spend money and do research and bring a vaccine or a drug unless they know they get their money back. But with the pandemic causing mayhem all over the place, both governments and grantors were throwing money at research, which normally you go through one phase, wait for months and months and years before you go to phase 2. But now phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, because money was not a problem, patients were not a problem, the condition was not a problem, everything was ripe, and then the technology was also there. So when you put all these things together, and then there was collaboration, the researchers were working together. Of course, countries have their political interests. Everybody wants to, like somebody said, I want to get the vaccine for Nigeria if I can, or the one for UK if I can. I don't want to come from another country. But definitely, this is went through preclinical phase 1, tens of patients, phase 2, hundreds of healthy volunteers, phase 3, thousands of volunteers across age, across ethnicity, and all of that. And then phase 4 is now currently going on. So the MHRA in the UK is not political, it's very scientific. I've taken the vaccine, I'm sure Loretta has. So people are talking, the vast majority of health workers in this country, doctors, nurses, are falling over themselves to queue and have the vaccine. I understand people are going to be hesitant, but those who you think know a lot more than you are falling over themselves to be vaccinated. So really, get the information you need. But the issue of conspiracy is not the problem here. People have had currently the UK has given, I think, about 15 million vaccines.
15 million.
So if it's really 15 million, over 15 million, yes. So if it's really a problem, I'm sure there'll be a lot of deaths since the vaccine started.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Just to say, especially for the Black and ethnic minority communities, Dr. Goma has not grown a horn yet. And I have not grown a tail yet. And we have had this vaccine. It's true, because I just watched my people. I went to church 4 Sundays ago, and I was like, oh, have you had the vaccine? No, I'm not having. No, Jesus is protecting us. I'm not having. I think that vaccine is the mark of the Antichrist. And I said, really? Okay. But there were very many other things that they said were the signs of the end times. And the end time still hasn't come. Don't get me wrong. I'm a strong and practicing Christian. So what now makes you certain? So because Pastor XYZ said this and that. And I said, well, you may be surprised that Pastor XYZ has secretly had the vaccine and you are here. No. Let's get back to brass tacks. And you are here carrying the banner of not having the vaccine. I said, well, when you die, Pastor XYZ doesn't die with you. He will only say prayer over your grave. So please, let's not let religious sentiments cover our eyes. Our shared humanity is the true religion. And our shared humanity has pushed people to work sleepless nights, donate money, and get this vaccine on board. That is the true humanity. So let's not miss that. It's not only sitting in church that you serve Christ.
Thank you so much. I think if you have ear, you need to hear. The Bible says, he who has an ear, let him hear what the Spirit says. The Spirit is not going to have a voice that you may not, a strange voice. The Spirit can be anybody talking to you, just like the doctors are talking to us. So we're going to move on to the next question, which I would directly ask Dr. Loretta. Does this vaccine affect fertility in any way? And why are people who are trying to conceive advised not to take it? That's the first question. And I'm going to ask another one just so you can answer all of them at the same time. Was this vaccine tested on pregnant women? If no, why the recent government guideline advising pregnant women to take the vaccine? So this is fertility and those who are already pregnant. Can you please answer?
Okay, so the first part of the question was what? Sorry,
so does it affect fertility in any way? Because I know that when the letter went out, for example, in my place of work, there are some group of people that were advised not to take the vaccine. For example, the first group, pregnant women, were advised then, which they've changed now, and those who are trying to conceive, and I think breastfeeding mothers as well. So does it affect fertility in any way? Why they said people who are trying to conceive should not have the vaccine? Hello, are you there, ma?
So I think, yes, I'm here. So I think I got the first part of the question, and I was expecting these questions because everybody has been calling me to ask one way or the other. So I just decided, I said, you know what? I'm not going to come and talk and make it look like it's coming just from my head. I have before me the website of the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists, RCOG for short. So the Royal College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists formulate guidelines for how you treat patients who are pregnant and non-pregnant. I mean, women who are pregnant and non-pregnant. And I'm very privileged to say that recently I did some work in my hospital, and that work has resulted in me writing to this college to say, I think we need to amend this in the COVID-19 guidelines. And they did. They acknowledged it. They saw the point, they saw the evidence, and they made amendments to the national and international guidelines for pregnant women. So I'm going to read straight from this website. And it says that the latest advice, and this is the 11th of February 2021, the latest advice from the Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunization is that COVID-19 vaccine should be considered for pregnant women when their risk of exposure to the virus is high and cannot be avoided, or if the woman has underlying conditions that place her at a very high risk of the complications of COVID-19. COVID-19 vaccines should only be considered for use in pregnancy when the benefits outweigh any potential risk for the woman and her baby.
Mm-hmm.
And then women trying to conceive or become pregnant, listen to this, do not need to avoid pregnancy after vaccination. And there is no evidence to suggest that COVID-19 vaccines will affect fertility. Breastfeeding women may be offered vaccination following consideration of their clinical need for immunization against COVID-19. And then women should discuss the benefits and risk of having the vaccine with their healthcare professional and reach a joint decision based on individual circumstances. So let me just sum this up. First and foremost, COVID-19 has been found not to affect fertility. Full stop.
Mm-hmm.
Secondly, to answer your question, you cannot find something if you do not investigate that subset. So women have been investigated, pregnant and non-pregnant women, with their consent. In the initial parts of the studies for these vaccines, there were a paucity because of a reluctance to investigate the pregnant women because we hadn't yet understood the virus. So a lot of the women did not consent, and a lot of the researchers were still trying to see, maybe should I call it just gently filling in the dark. But in recent times, more recently, pregnant women have had this vaccine. And what we've come to find is that pregnancy may increase your sensitivity to developing an adverse reaction to the vaccine. Mind the words I've said. Developing an adverse reaction to the vaccine may be increased in pregnancy. But that is not to say that it's just the same way that pregnant women, when they get COVID infections, they are more at risk of having it go pear-shaped. But the reason is not far-fetched. Pregnancy is what you call an immunocompromised state. What do I mean by that? The circulating hormones of pregnancy, progesterone and estrogen, they're very high when we are pregnant. The placenta is producing them happily to sustain the baby and sustain a lot of things. So they drop your immunity. Even the common cold, you find that you catch it a lot more. And that makes pregnant women prone. But what the college is recommending is that if you are pregnant, there are a group of people who need to have this vaccine. And there are those with baseline underlying conditions. For example, or they are high risk of exposure. If you are HCA, healthcare assistant, if you're a nurse, if you're a doctor, you are frontline. You have maximum exposure. So you are advised to discuss with your healthcare provider, and you're advised to have the vaccine, and you're actually advised to go on maternity leave early from 28 weeks. But I still find that it is us, the Black and ethnic minority, that still push back our mat leave. I don't know if Dr. Goma has noticed, but me, I have. It is still, even my colleagues who are Black people, who will say, 28 weeks, I beg, I want to reach like 38 weeks and then I go off. And recently in my hospital, we've had a manager have to call one of my colleagues and say, no, the guideline says you should be off at so and so time. So, to summarize, if you are pregnant, you will need to discuss with your healthcare provider. Are you at high risk? Do you have conditions like maybe previous treatment for breast cancer, previous treatment for cervical cancer, or previous treatment for any cancers at all? Have you had a renal transplant? Are you anything that makes you high risk? Are you sickle cell patient? Are you anything that makes you more vulnerable? In that case, you discuss with them. Then you balance the risk. It's like putting things on a scale. And then you decide with your healthcare provider. You must be in the middle of that discussion. Am I going to have this or am I not going to have this vaccine? And they will make a joint, sometimes MDT, multidisciplinary decision as to whether you have it or not.
Wow. I honestly.
Also, importantly,
yeah.
Importantly, you must remember that with respect to fertility, it's not been found to affect fertility.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I think this is
very, and just to point out that the baby in the womb is not at any significant risk from COVID-19.
Yeah. Can I just say something before Dr. Hector-Goma says something? So why is it that, because obviously I'm a frontline staff as well. And I know from what you've just said, one of the things that they've advised pregnant women is the fact that by the time you get to 28 weeks, which is obviously your third trimester, if they can't provide a safe place for you to work, you need to shield, basically. So why is that? Does that mean that from at that third trimester you're more at risk, or there's something about you at that time that can cause a big problem for you? And another thing you said something that some of your some colleagues like to work until 35, 38. Do they actually know that they are supposed to be shielding? Because most people don't really know that they are supposed to be shielding at 28 weeks, which means that if you're going to be shielding, you're going to be paid. It's not like they are sending you home and you're not going to be paid. You're going to be paid, but they're just trying to protect you. So do they really know that, or they just want to be at work? I don't get it.
So to start with the last part of the question, you're supposed to be risk assessed. You're supposed to present yourself for that risk assessment. You're supposed to do it with whoever is your line manager once you are pregnant. But you see, people have a way. I don't think they understand that when you are shielding, you can still work from home. You still get paid for doing other. It's just like rearranging the kind of work you are doing. You don't have clinical exposure anymore, and you are told to stay by yourself and walk away from the high risk, high exposure, in fact, center of the battlefield. Keep away. So I don't think people understand that. So that's why we're having this discussion, so that people should understand and know that, because it's all about money. People are thinking, how much I need to send money home to my mother, I need to send money home to my brothers and my sisters. The money is not even for them. That is to show you the generosity of the Black and ethnic minority, of migrant population. They work for people back home. Now, to explain the 28-week mark, when the studies were done, it was found that most of the women who came down and were really hit by COVID-19 were in the gestational age of after 28 weeks so 28 weeks and beyond. And it's not hard to explain physiologically when you understand the dynamics of pregnancy. Pregnancy is progressive. So when you are when you are day one pregnant, you still feel a bit normal. As the pregnancy advances, the placenta embeds into the wall of the womb. It gets bigger, it grows. It's if you like, think about it like an invasive alien, okay, that gets bigger and bigger and bigger and supplies the growing baby as well. As it's getting bigger, I'm just trying to keep this simple. As it's getting bigger, it's producing those hormones a lot more. Those hormones, estrogen and progesterone. And those hormones, some of their activity is to go and tell the body. They say, hey, look, there's a tiny alien here, but you have to accept that alien as part of you. That alien is the baby. I'm just trying to explain this now in simple terms. That alien is the baby. So they are trying to say, calm down. For instance, progesterone will go and tell all your blood vessels, just be relaxed. Just, and it doesn't discriminate. It tells all your tissues, relax. So that's why you even find when you are pregnant, you're going to have a lot of reflux, because even your esophagus is more relaxed, and the weight of the baby as well is pushing everything back. So you find that when you lie down, you have a lot of pain, acid flowing back. So that's the same way it tells everything else, chill out, okay? And then there is massive expansion in terms of the blood volume, about 40% expansion. So your heart, your kidneys, especially your kidneys, they are overworked. Your liver, pregnancy is not a disease, but it is a change in the physiological state. Huge dynamics that the body needs to take care of. Increased peripheral resistance that the whole system needs to cater for. And to dodge that and not make your blood pressure go up, if you're a normal woman, the progesterone is relaxing every vessel across your body. It's preparing the body to be relaxed. So that significant change becomes active from 25 weeks. And from 28 weeks upward is in top gear. By the time you are arriving at 40 weeks, the placenta is already beginning to degenerate in terms of its function and what it can do. So that itself presents another problem. So these are the multiple factors that have made us as scientists to say, we didn't just pluck 28 weeks from the air. So it's a combination of observing the patients who came down with coronavirus, their effect, and then tying it to the physiology. And this is why it's good for us to have this kind of programs and educate our people. And it's also good for them to know that they're not saying they won't pay you, but they're telling you that you should shield, because you are at that point more prone to suffering a lot more if COVID were to affect you.
Wow. Honestly, I don't even know what to say, because I think this program is specifically for our people. I know there are some questions that are here, and Dr. Loretta has actually said a lot about pregnancy and fertility. If you need specific advice from any of them, I'm going to be dropping their, in fact they're on Facebook. You can chat up with any of them on Facebook, and I'm very, very sure the way, the passion they have, and I'm very sure they've been talking about this in other platforms as well. Who knows, Dr. Loretta is going off, she might even talk about it the next show she's going on, so she would be very happy, or both of them will be very happy to actually address any concerns that you have. I'm going to ask a question that someone just
let me just, before you, let me just say something that I find in my experience is killing my Black women, especially in foreign communities. When we become Black and ethnic minority subset of the population, we say, oh, my friend was pregnant and she didn't have the vaccine, so I'm not going to have it. Whereas you were treated for breast cancer and you have diabetes before you got pregnant, or you were hypertensive before you got pregnant. Please, 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 there's something we call individualizing of patient and managing the patient holistically. What is happening to Madam B is not what is happening to Madam C. And what is even happening to Precious in pregnancy number 1 is not what is going to be happening to Precious in pregnancy number 4. Because she may even be 40 years old while she's number 4, and that changes the whole dynamics. Whereas she was 28 years old when she was having baby number 1. I just thought to
thank you so much. Dr. Hector-Goma, if you want to add something, and if you can also answer this question as well. Are there a certain group of people who should not take the vaccine, and why? If you want to answer this and maybe say something about the other question as well.
Okay, just one quick point on the other question. Going back to the basic principle that you don't introduce infection with the vaccine, you just introduce a piece of the protein to trigger the body to build immunity, unlike vaccines that are created by introducing an infection. So that's just what I want to say. So remember, you don't introduce a coronavirus into
it's not a live vaccine.
Not a live. It's not even. It's just a piece of a protein. The other point is that generally you don't do such things in pregnancy, but at least in the preclinical trials where they work in animal studies, from the Pfizer report, that there was nothing teratogenic about the vaccines in pregnant animals. But then just to remember that it was never a live vaccine that was used. So in terms of the contraindication for the vaccine, the number one contraindication is somebody who had a previous serious allergy to the first dose of a vaccine. So if somebody was given the Pfizer vaccine or the AZ vaccine, and within a few minutes they had severe allergy and they had to quickly give them adrenaline, oxygen, ship them off to hospital, and they got back to life. Such people should not have that vaccine again. So that's the key thing. And then for the Pfizer vaccine, there is a particular compound called polyethylene glycol, PEG, which is also used to make different tablets. Now, if somebody comes for the vaccine and has had multiple allergies to several different tablets, maybe 5-6 different tablets they're allergic to, then for such patients, it's probable that PEG is what has caused the multiple allergies to those tablets. So for such people, you won't give them the Pfizer vaccine, you'll give them the AZ vaccine. Those are the key contraindications for, and another point is that there are various, whatever chemicals that are used to make the vaccine. If somebody has a confirmed allergy to anything in the vaccine, then and those are the only ones that you would say don't have the vaccine, and then you have the other one. Of course, for children, I know the Americans are doing studies now, but for children and then for people who are under 16 years old, you can't give them the Pfizer vaccine. And I think for the AstraZeneca vaccine, for those who are under 18 years old, you can't give them the vaccine. Even people who are immunocompromised, people who have taken HIV drugs, they are okay to have the vaccine, because the worst case scenario is that they will not have as much response to the vaccine than those who are not immunocompromised. But at least they will have some response, and even small response is better than no response. So there is no contraindication for those who are immunocompromised for the same reason that it's not a live vaccine. So they can.
Yeah, so I know that both of you actually frequent Nigeria a lot, and I know that Dr. Loretta just literally came back from Nigeria. I just want to ask, do you know if there is any vaccine that Nigerians are developing for ourselves, or what's the plan in terms of vaccine in Nigeria? Because someone actually asked that question.
All right, so Precious, I'm still in Nigeria,
hey,
and
okay.
I have to run in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Just to say that a few days ago, actually last week, NAFDAC approved the AstraZeneca vaccine for use in Nigeria. Then 2 days ago, I saw where they were saying they were still trying to get all the paperwork right to procure that vaccine. With respect to Nigeria manufacturing her own vaccine, there's been a lot of banter in the media. But as I speak to you, I am yet to see the actual place where Nigeria is doing her own vaccine.
Do you have anything to say, Dr. Hector?
The last the Minister for Health said was that they were putting money together to try and get the one that has now been accepted by NAFDAC.
Yeah. Sorry, just before you go, because I know you're going to be running now. Even Dr. Hector-Goma has got a show after this, so I have to squeeze as much as I can from both of you. Before you run, there is a question on the comment section which is also here as well. I know clearly both of you have taken the vaccine. What would you advise people who, because someone actually sent a comment on the comment section saying that her mother, when she found out that the husband has had the vaccine, she was like, oh, she's gotten the mark of the beast or 666 something. And from what I know, this person is a top person. If this person that is top can actually make this comment, and I'm thinking, what happens to the people in the smaller area? So what advice would you give to people who, especially our people? Because I'm just praying, God, if at the end of the day everyone takes this vaccine and it ends up being that our people don't take the vaccine, we'll be the people dying like a lot more, and
that would be bad if we don't take it. But my advice, Precious, is to keep talking and encouraging them. And please don't get it wrong. The degrees and certificates sometimes don't equal enlightenment. So we need to preach to these people. Hector and myself are living examples. I don't have a horn. He doesn't have a tail. We still got 2 eyes, 1 nose, and 1 mouth. So please, people out there, I don't think the people will create something and then be giving it to their own people, and you will say they want to harm you. It just doesn't make sense. It's like me, I've cooked in my house. I'm feeding my children with the same food from the same pot, and the house girl says I want to kill her. How does that work?
Wow. I know you're going to be running now. So you can actually go now if you want to go. I and Dr. Hector-Goma is going to round off. If you just want to say your last words before you go.
So my last words are well done to you, and well done to let's keep spreading the word. COVID-19 is real. Very, very real. I don't know if you're hearing me still.
Yes.
COVID-19 is very real. Let people not be careless. Ensure the...
Wow. I think she's gone now.
Yes, she's gone,
yeah. So let me just quickly, just a minute. Oh, she's coming back. I'm just gonna add. Oh, she's gone. Right. Okay. Sorry, sir. I'm just gonna quickly conclude with you. Oh, she's coming back. Sorry, guys. I think our guest wants to actually say something. I'm not sure why she's not coming on yet. But anyway, let's just continue, sir. What is your final advice for people? Because one of the things I've observed is the fact that most Nigerians, when they wear their mask, in fact every Nigerian I've seen, they wear mask, right? But the problem is that the mask is always here, always under their mouth. So I personally don't understand, is it that they are okay, I'm wearing this mask now, I'm wearing mask, but the mask is not covering their mouth. Even the people who try to cover their mouth, their nose is not covered. So what's your advice on people who, first of all, they don't even want to think about or hear about the vaccine? I remember when I posted this program, somebody actually said, oh, he's going to take every other vaccine, but the Moderna vaccine he's not going to take. So I quickly went to research on the Moderna vaccine. What is it about this particular vaccine? According to him, I think he feels that is linked to Bill Gates, which I want you to please address. The issue of Bill Gates and the vaccine, sir. Please, can you say something and also encourage our people on how to have the vaccine?
Right, okay. To start with, I think it's important to take people's concerns seriously, and try as much as possible to address those concerns. If somebody thinks that this vaccine is a mark of the beast, for example, it's in the Bible that somewhere along the line there'll be a mark of the beast. And so if this vaccine is being put on the forehead or on the arm, maybe you can call it the mark of the beast. But excuse me, there's the conspiracy theories really that they have worked out about 5 kinds of conspiracies. That you have the enemy outside, you have the enemy inside, you have the enemy above, the enemy below, and then the benevolent angelic person on the outside. So people will always have things that they say, and I think our role is really to explain what, for example, is in the vaccines that we know. And if you know that at the Moderna vaccine, I haven't seen yet, I've not given yet, but I've administered the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccines to hundreds of patients, I know exactly what the constituents are. So if people are told exactly what is in the vaccine, at least in the UK, these things are so strictly monitored that whatever you say is in something, it's the regulatory agency will check and confirm that what you say is in it is what is in it. So that's what's all I can say, that these vaccines have been made. Vaccines throughout history have been the best option for pandemics. They are the best options. And I can again understand if these vaccines were being made, nobody in Europe or in UK or in US is taking these vaccines. They're all being shipped to Africa or they're being shipped to South Asia. I can understand people saying, we are not taking this vaccine because they are not taking the vaccine. But the people who you say are trying to kill you have almost all taken the vaccine, and they are giving 15 million vaccines, and life is going on. So what moral justification or what scientific justification do we have to refuse to take the vaccine? It's as if somebody who has been unemployed for years finally gets a job, and you are saying they want to poison me, that's why they gave me the job. Maybe you don't want to work. So I tell people that I have been a doctor for 31 years. I've lived in this country for 24 years. I have a bit of knowledge. I have taken the vaccine. And if I've taken the vaccine and you don't believe the vaccine is good, what more can I say? All I can say is that my wife is a frontline health NHS worker. I'm a frontline worker. We are both taking the vaccine. And that's the best I can say. And honestly, I started by saying I don't want the vaccine. And then when I saw people who have died, who are younger than me, healthier than me, doctors I know who have died, influential people I know who have died, both in the UK, in US, in Nigeria. I have people who work not far from me who have died. I quickly went and I did my research, and I moved from I won't take the vaccine to I may take the vaccine, and quickly to I will take the vaccine, and I went and took the vaccine, and I'm happy, life goes on. So I want to say that I have taken the vaccine, I've done my research, and if that is not enough for what I've said, then please do your research, and when you offer the vaccine, please take the vaccine. But I saw what is called the health belief model. the health belief model says that, one, people would take medication or have a health behavior when they think it's a severe problem. People at home still believe that COVID-19 is not real. Many people at home. Now, as at 10:30 this morning, there have been 112,900,000 confirmed cases worldwide. 112 million. And in terms of the number of deaths, 2.5 million people have died all over the world from COVID. Now, if you say that you don't believe COVID exists with these numbers, then I have to quote one scripture for you. If you believe in Christ, that my people perish for lack of knowledge. Please, death is final. And if you have a family, if you have parents, you have children, you have a spouse, you have people that you care for, if you're offered the vaccine, please take the vaccine, because it is obvious. Even Thomas put his hand in the hands of Jesus Christ and believed his master had resurrected from the dead. With all what has been said, please do your research if you want to do any more research, but please don't just take your pastor's word for it. Many people have gone behind and they've had the vaccine and one are queuing up to take the vaccine. I'm pleading with you as a fellow Nigerian, as a fellow Black person, or whoever you are, please take the vaccine. But if you are hesitating, go and do further research, but don't take too long, because people younger than you and I probably have already died because they had the vaccine. I mean, they didn't have the vaccine, they didn't have the opportunity. If you have the opportunity, please do not delay, take the vaccine.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really, I don't even know what to say, but I just want to say thank you so much, sir. God bless you. Dr. Hector-Goma is one of those people that I know that even when he had the vaccine, he did a video of it, and I saw the video just to let people know that he has taken the vaccine, and he's still here with us today, even advising us to take the vaccine. So if you have any concerns that we have not covered, you can reach them on Facebook. They're on Facebook. You can contact them privately. I'm very, very sure they will be happy to help you. If you're in Nigeria, actually, Dr. Loretta is in Nigeria. She can actually answer your questions as well and give you any advice that you want. There's something that both doctors have said. The person who, or if you're deciding not to have the vaccine because your pastor said, you might be surprised that your pastor has actually secretly taken the vaccine. He won't tell you he has, but he has secretly taken it. Or even if he hasn't, he might be healthier than you. So one thing I believe is that your health, your safety, and your well-being is your responsibility. It's not the responsibility of anybody. All they all do, the professionals, are just to advise us on what to do. But in terms of the decision, it's in our hand to decide. So I just want to say thank you so much, sir, for what you're doing. Please continue to share the word however you're going to share. You don't get tired of us, because I know that we are very stubborn sometimes. Don't get tired of us. Continue to speak to us, continue to encourage us. If you know anyone as well that has issue with the vaccine, please send this video to them. But just a quick update. This year we're going to be having our shows once every month, which is going to be the last weekend in the month. Our next show has been planned. It's going to be the next last weekend in the month of March, and we're going to be talking about marriage, communication, and marriage. You don't want to miss that. So the poster is going to be coming out soon, and you're going to see who our guest is going to be. So guys, thank you so much for spending time with us. I think it's time for us to go now. I'm going to let Doctor go so that he can get ready for his next program. Thank you so much, sir. Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Congratulations in advance.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. All right. Bye, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.